Neil. Well, took Ned instead. Took Neil. And he came from overseas, and what they told me that he came over here and married a woman that could not speak a word English, and he cannot speak a word French. And they raised a bunch of kids. And my grandpa was in there, but I never knew him either. I was too young to remember him. I was only about 2 years old when he died. That's what I was told. But remember my grandma very well. She lived to be 95, and we've been living next door to each other until the storm of 1926. And then she moved to New Orleans, but we still visit each other. So I knew her better than anybody else of her age. But my grandpa, grandmom, they all had died either before I was born or I was too young to remember them. But her, I knew her very well. She was in the storm of 1909. And that lady passed a rough down because she said she had a 2-year-old child. And when the storm came, and it just tore down the house and they went floating away. Her 2-year-old baby, and her husband. But then they got separated. She went one way and he got floated another way. But she got into a tree, an oak tree. And she climbed in that oak tree and she stayed there all night fighting the storm with that 2-year-old baby. And she survived like that. And he survived too, but he floated miles away from where she was. And they met the next day. They told her what happened. I was told that she had the baby, was 2 years old. That was Melanie. That was the last child she had, but she had 10 altogether. But that was her last child. And I still don't remember that because that was before I was born. And my daddy, that storm there, he lost his wife and 5 children he had. They all drowned because they didn't want to get on a boat, a paddle boat pass in the bayou, and pick up all the people that wanted to go up the bayou and save themselves. But she was so sure that he was going to be coming in. He was fishing oysters, and he had a bunch of men with him. In fact, he had 6 men, he told us. And they started to come in, but they never could make it. They drift from 3 or 4 miles from Cocoa Tree, that's as far as they got to the house, and then they drift all the way back to Grand Caillou until the storm finished. Then they came back and found all they had was gone, all the house was gone. Nobody had a house left, and most of the people were drowned. And he had 5 children and a wife, and they all drowned. And they buried them wherever they find a dead person in those days. They didn't have time to go to the cemetery. But after everything was settled, he unburied. His wife was buried at Robertson Canal on the bank of the canal. And they knew it was her, so they told him it was her. They had buried her on the canals. And he unburied her and buried her on his property. That's all he had left, the property down there. He didn't have no more cows, no more house, no more nothing. He was, him and his property, that was all that was left after the storm. destroy everything they had. He had a lot of cattle. He had some lumber that he would sell then, and some gasoline in drums. That's the three things he said he was making a living beside the oysters, because he was in the oysters all his life. And he did that when he was very young. When he was 14 years old, he used to go on a sailboat with his uncle, sell seafood at the French market in New Orleans. And up there in Morgan City, on the Bayou Teche, they call it, they would push the boat up the bayou all the way to the end of Bayou Teche, and they would use the sail to go to the French Quarter, because the river is big enough. But when there's no wind, you have to push with a pole. He said that's what they did for a long time. Then when he got into business by himself, he just went into the oyster business. He rented some reef, and he started with a few acres, and then he had hundreds of acres at the end. And when he had lost all his family in the storm of 1909, and my mom lost her husband by her first husband. He was a lumberjack, cutting cypress for the sawmill. And while he was cutting trees, they got a big nest of bees that jumped on him. And he jumped in the bayou, but the bees kept coming at him, and he got stung so many times that it killed him. He didn't survive. He lasted maybe 2 or 3 days, but it killed him. So she was a widow, and my daddy was a widow. And they met, I don't know how or when, but I know my mama told me that she was working for the Henry Clement in Montague. And after she lost her husband, but she had 3 sons with her first husband. Augustin Hébert was her first husband. They had Sidney, they had Anthony, and they had Louis. And they all died now, they're all dead. The last one was my half-brother, Anthony. He lived to be 87, but he died a few years back, so no more of that family. And my daddy didn't have no more family either. So they met and they matched up, and they got 10 kids among themselves, yeah. Let's see. Well, we were 4 brothers and 4 sisters that lived to be grown up and married, but there's 2 of them that died young. So there was 10 altogether. And they messed up. One she had that one by with the needle of food. It was all over the place. But my mama and my daddy, between them 2, they had, let's see, 5, 10, 15, 18. They had 18 children among the 2 married. So that was a lot of kids. And all that made a lot of little people besides the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren, the great-great, and so that's quite a few of those.
Daddy, tell us about your daddy's boat, your daddy's oyster boat.
Well, my daddy, he built a boat in 1903 for him. He built that boat for him and a colored man, a black man that was living not too far from him, and another at Thibodeau, Mr. Joe Thibodeau. That's the 3 that built the boat. It was a 55-foot boat. It would haul 150 barrel of oysters loaded down. That's the most you could put in. And that's what he did all his life after, ever since I could remember when I was born until he died. That's all he did during that time. That was oysters, fish oil, sell oysters. That's all he did. He didn't do nothing else with that. And before that, when he was working with his uncle, selling seafood at French Quarter in New Orleans, well then they would sell oysters and shrimp or crab, fish, whatever they could catch. They didn't have no troll those days. They had to catch it with a cast net or with a seine. That's the way they had to catch the fish. The troll, they didn't even talk about that then. But the thing about my daddy's boat, he built that boat, a 55-foot boat, and he bought a 3-horsepower Palmer engine to put in that boat. That was about all they had in those days. They just come out with the engine and do away with the sail. So that 3-horsepower engine had to push that big boat. And when it was blowing kind of hard, he couldn't buck the wind. They had to either throw the anchor, wait till the wind come down to be able to. The motor didn't have enough power to. And that's why he had in the boat in 1909 storm that they couldn't get further than about 3 or 4 miles below Cocodrie, and then it just went drift. He said they had 2 anchors. They throw both anchors overboard, but it didn't hold the boat either. And after the storm, he bought a 2,000-pound anchor, and he put it on the back of the boat, and it stayed there for maybe 50 years after, maybe more than that. It never even used, but it's just in case, because the 2 anchors he had for the 1909 storm didn't hold, so he thought that one would hold, but he never used it. He never threw it overboard.
And that was a 200-pound anchor.
200-pound anchors. And when the boat, he destroyed the boat when it was cold enough that it was no more good. And the anchor was no more good either. It had rotten away, or rusted away. And that was the end of the anchor and the end of the boat too. But he put another motor in the boat year after, I don't know how many years after the 1909 storm, a 15-horsepower scrip engine. That was a big engine, a lot of power there. It could push the boat and move it anywhere he wants to go. That's why he hauled his oysters to Homer, and it lasts maybe 50 years or better, that motor. Because when I was born, it was in the boat, and when he destroyed the boat and everything, it was still in there. And that was a good 50 years after, or better. That engine lasts a long time.
What was the name of the boat?
The Junior Ann was the name of the boat.
And that was your daddy?
That was my daddy's boat.
And what was the 2 people who built it with him?
Wallace Welsh, that was the black man. He was a carpenter, and my daddy, and Joe Thibodeau. Joe Thibodeau was a young man then, and he was a good carpenter. He built my daddy's house, and he built his boat also. The camp that we were born and raised in, he's the one who built the camp, and he also built the boat. And Daddy was a good carpenter also. He built all his skiff and pirogue, and that's one of the pirogue that I remember almost cut it plumb in half. I was about maybe 2 years old, and I was playing by myself under the camp at seashore right there. They were all fishing oysters except Mama was there and me, and she gave me a big knife. I don't know why. And I start chopping on that B-root, chopping on, and I cut it all the way to the bottom, all the side. But by then, my daddy got back from fishing, and boy, I took off, went hiding, but they find me, and I had to come back from hiding at night. So that's the only time I remember in my life that he gave me one whack. I remember. It still kind of hurts a little bit. And that was about 78 years ago, or maybe 80 years ago. And it's still, I feel it still. The only time in my life that I remember that he put his hand on me to whip me. I deserve more than that, though. More than just one. But he probably wouldn't have hit me if somebody else wouldn't have said, Uncle, this is the one that did that. He's the one who did that. He's the
Take
one.
some finger pointing.
But I deserve it. Now my grandma, I think that the next one, not my great grandma, just my grandma. That's my daddy's wife.
How's your girl?
That's my girl. Yeah, daddy's mama. Daddy's mama. That's the one that passed the storm 1909 in the tree with the 2-year-old baby. When she lived to be 95, she died in New Orleans when she was 95. But she went through some rough time because she had a house in the 1926 storm. I was born, I was 12 years old then, I remember that. And she had a house built from after the 1909 storm, took everything they had. All she had left was her. Didn't save nothing. Her husband and her daughter. But then they rebuilt. They built another house. They had been in there ever since from 1909 to 1926. When that storm came and tore down everything they had too. Well, my grandpa was dead then, but my grandma was living. And the 2-year-old baby was living too. She was living in New Orleans. She was working at the clothes factory in New Orleans. But my grandma was living in her house. And all she said was a little black satchel that she carried with her all the time. And that's all she said. Everything else was gone after the storm. She suffered a lot in her life, but she was happy-go-lucky all the time. You couldn't tell by looking at her that she went through all that. And they lived to be 95, so she was like, I guess, okay. The grandma, my grandma grew. I knew her, and I knew my grandma, Marceline Renee, that was her name, but it was Mère Paulin. She was married to Paulin. So that's the only two grandma I knew. My grandfather, I never knew none of them. They all died before I was born, or I was too young to remember. But they lived where I could remember them well, my two grandma. What about my daddy? When he was young, he told me that he was supposed to make his first communion. And they were not supposed to eat or drink anything from midnight till the next day.
Something to that.
So he said him and Alfred Daspy, they were two that were supposed to go to communion. They were the same age. They went up in the attic of the house with each a can of sardine and a box of crackers. And he said they ate the sardine and the crackers before they went to communion. nobody knew about it until after it was all finished. So I don't think it helped them, but they didn't go hungry for sure. It probably was a bad thing to do, but they didn't tell the priest about it. They told me probably a lot of stories that I don't remember that happened in those days that I forgot or too young to remember. But now and then he tells me one that I could remember. But that next thing over there,
Oh, what about Mama's daddy working for your daddy?
well, yeah, my mama's daddy worked for my dad when he was young. And well, all the brothers worked. They have Victor, and they had Frank, and they had Joe, and they had Eddie. They all worked for my dad in fishing horses. And a lot of other people too. They had people from Puerto Sham, my cousin Neville Thibodeau, my uncle Paul Neil, my uncle Ed, I can't remember all the people that worked for him. Because when you're in the oyster business, you have a lot of people that work 1 year, and then after that 4 months vacation, they quit and they go work some other job. So they didn't stay too long on that particular job. They find something else to do during the 4 months, and then they didn't come back. But he had a lot of people that worked for him during the time he been in the oyster business. Now the storm of 1926, I remember that one. The place was cleaned up from Cocodrie to about Robinson Canal. The only house that stayed, Mr. Drouanger's house, we had 2 houses, Mr. Laperouse's house and stove stayed, and that's about it. Everything else was washed away from Cocodrie to Robinson Canal. They said that storm there was just about as bad as the one from 1903. They talked about it and they said it was about the same kind of storm and it passed about the same place. And that was a storm as strong as Kabir and Betsy. That was about the kind of storm it was. It was a Caragora fire, I guess you could call it, to destroy everything they had from Cocodrie to Robinson Canal. Everything that was built 8 or 10 feet above the ground stayed, but there's not too many houses that was built above the ground that high. They all built low, and they all took off. They all disappeared. You couldn't see nothing after the storm. We passed it in the bayou, anchored on a big oak tree, about halfway between Savance Canal and Robinson. And I guarantee it was rough, very rough, and it lasts all night. And I remember well, it started that dark, and it lasted the next morning. The eye passed over us when the eye passed over us. All them old people say, "Oh, thank God the storm is finished." Well, it's going to come from the west, but that's going to be the end of it. And that was the end of it. Now, the somebody said on the paper some time back that all that was left at Cocodrie was Guy Chauvin's platform. But that's not true, because Guy Chauvin's platform took off like everything else. Not one piece of lumber stayed. Because we went the next day, and Guy Chauvin had a little store. And the store was gone. There was nothing there except the polished shell it was built on. And I myself picked up some canned wood from the hole that the water, the wave did around the post, and the canned wood fell in there. But the canned wood didn't have no more labels, so we didn't know what they were. So you couldn't pick anything to eat because you couldn't tell what it was in the can. Every time we opened the can, thought something good to eat, it was something you had to cook, so we throw that away. But I know the platform was gone and everything else too. But somebody said on the paper a couple of 3 years ago that that's the only thing that stayed. Guy Chauvin's platform, but it did not stay. It took off like the rest. You can stop that for a second and the price of the oysters 50, 60, or 75 years ago and now is so much different that it's hard to believe. When we never got more than $1.25 or $1.50 a barrel. That's the most we could get. A barrel. And I myself went to Golden Meadow not too long ago and paid $33 for half a barrel, which was $66 for a barrel of oysters, and we were getting $1.25. That's a lot of difference in the price to go up from that time. Well, it's a good many years, but still in all, everything went up sky high since that time too. Not only the oysters, the shrimp and the fish and the crab. Because I know we were selling crab for a nickel a dozen, and now you pay as much as $19 for a dozen good super select crab. You pay $19 a dozen, and we were getting a nickel a dozen when I was just a little kid. And when I was a little kid, there's a lot of things that happened too that I didn't talk about it. My daddy used to buy sugar in barrels, wooden barrels. And when they emptied the barrel, there was always some sugar left around the edge at the bottom. And they put the barrel under that can to put away.
Well, feed hard.
And I was young enough to get in the barrel and I'd eat that sugar nearly all day long. I'd pass my finger in that little hole around the bottom of the barrel and I eat sugar. But after that, they come out with sugar in sack. Now, I didn't have no chance to get in the barrel no more. I had to eat the sugar with a spoon out of the can. So Mama put it in, take the sugar from the sack and put it in some bucket and some can. That's the only way I could eat the sugar, but I didn't get no more sugar barrel under the can. Now, another thing that I was going to say about my daddy of the 1909 storm. After the storm, they started looking for the drowned people. But he found one of his boys. I think the name was Andrew then. I'm not sure. And he was the oldest one. He was about 12 years old. And he said he didn't drown because he found the boy sitting by a tree, against the tree. He was sitting down against the tree. And he was not drowned. He was just dead there. He died of exposure or shock or whatever. They didn't know. But he said he knew that his boy didn't drown for the storm. He probably got in the tree and got down off the tree after the storm. And at that age, he didn't know what to do, lost in the wood, just died, I guess. But that's something that happened that probably nobody heard about it, but Daddy told us that many times. And what the
2 twins, they never found the twins.
well, the 5 children drowned in the wife, but there's 2 that they never did find. It's the 2 twins. They had 2 twins. I was only about a year old, and they never found those 2. They was so little, I guess. They got lost in the trash, and they never did find those. They buried the people anywhere they could find them. In those days, they didn't bring them to the cemetery, and a lot of them was never found. A lot of people was never found because a lot of people drowned that storm. The storm of 1926, they had a few people drowned, but not as many as 1909. That's what I was told anyway. And the storm was just about as big, one just as big as the other, but they had more people that could get away from down the fire in 1926 than in 1903. They had ways to get up the wire where it was safe. I don't know if anything else that you...
What about your dad having the best oysters around?
Well, he had the best oysters. My dad had, I guess, one of the best oysters in the state of Louisiana, you could call it. It did. Nobody ever said anything bad about his oysters. And his oysters were not only good to eat, they were clean. When you want to open oysters, it was all oysters.
One by one.
One by one, all clean. You could open them with a white shirt and not get dirty. You wouldn't sell them no 2 or 3 oysters together or a bunch of together or dirty oysters. They had to be clean. And if it was too little, we couldn't sell that. They had to be big enough to sell that. That was one good thing about his oysters.
What about the dentist? Dentist.
The dentist.
So you'd hide from the dentist?
Oh, well, when I was just a young kid, the dentist, they'd come down to, I guess all the way to Cookerdale about once or twice a year. Anybody had toothache, they'd pull that tooth. But me, I had a toothache, and I was supposed to have it pulled, but when I heard that the dentist was coming, I took off with a palometa in the back of the house. I went and hid. They couldn't find me. But the next time he came around, they didn't say anything about the dentist. They caught me. I had to have it pulled. That's the way it was with little kids, you know. They're scared to death to have it tooth pulled. But they finally got me. I had my tooth pulled. And after that, the second one I had pulled, I remember, I went to town with my aunt in a pirogue, not in a boat, but in a pirogue, from way down below Robinson to the end of the road where Aurelie State store was. That was the end of the road. I had a Model T Ford that we got in, belonged to my uncle, and we went to town. And I had my second tooth pulled there. That was a dentist on top of a Morgan and Lindsay's store. It's not Morgan and Lindsay no more, but that was the store. And that time I was not afraid, like the first one.
How old were you then? How old were you then?
Oh, well, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 years old, something like that. Because I remember I was too young to paddle the B road. And I could stand up in the Model T4 and my head wouldn't touch the top. That I remember too. But that's not very big, you know. Not 8, 9, 10 years old, not that old. And I guess it's about time to close up. Huh?
What about your other traveling experiences? Driving?
Oh, well, like that time first time we went to New Orleans in a car and on a shell road. They didn't have no pay. A Homer had pay from about DR junkyard. That was the end of the pay. After that, all the way in New Orleans was shell road. And we dressed up in white pants and white shirt, and we had a flat tire. And after we fixed the flat tire on that dusty road, we could have been in dark clothes. It would have been the same, because we were so full of dust and all dirty. But we kept going. Our first time in New Orleans. And that was one thing I enjoyed in New Orleans. You could buy a poor boy, roast beef poor boy for a nickel. And it was big enough that you had enough with one. That was Morrison Cafeteria. That was, I guess, 19, well, I was about maybe 14, 13, 14, 15 years old. That's my first trip, and I enjoyed that. I remember that poor boy.
You first saw Paw Paw boy.
They take a long bread, French bread, about 3 feet long, and they cut it all in pieces to make poor boy, and roast beef, and good too, for a nickel. Today, I guess you pay $1.50 or $2.
No,
$2.
more than
$2
that.
for roast beef.
What else you did in New Orleans?
Well, we went different places. Well, we had a guide that bring us. He was living in New Orleans, and he'd bring us anywhere we wanted to go. We went and sat on the levee, listened to the music of the boat, the big paddle boat that drive the river. They play that music with steam. Oh, that was pretty. I enjoyed that. And but we went right all over New Orleans. Of course, we didn't have much money to spend. We had to be careful. Well, a nickel for a poor boy would last a good while, you know. Because we went to a show, and we stayed 2 days, one night and 2 days, and came back. We slept in the car. Didn't have no place to sleep, so we slept in the car. But I enjoyed that trip. So you don't forget something like that. The first time when you're that age, that's a big thing. Guess it's about time to shut up, to close up.